everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Dasha and in today's video we are going to be talking about how to learn hanzi as a beginner. Now, for a little bit of context, I started learning Chinese in January of 2024. It is my fourth language but my first Southeast Asian language. I did and passed my HSK1 exam in June of this year, and then I've got my HSK2 exam literally this week, which is so scary, but anyway. I would personally say that reading is one of my strongest skills in Chinese, and that's not a brag because my listening is quite bad, but my reading, I can read, okay? And there's absolutely no shame in not being able to confidently read, just a hanzi with no pinyin at, a beginner stage anyway. That's completely normal because you're a beginner. However, it is really important to learn hanzi and, kind of stop relying on pinyin, because from HSK3, I believe, there is no pinyin guides in the questions. And just in general, Chinese life, if you were to go to China, there would not be any pinyin guides. So if you have kind of a long-term intention with Chinese, if you want to work there, if you want to study that, or even if you just want to go there on holiday, then I personally think that, learning how to read Chinese and learning to not rely on pinyin is so important. So that's what we're going to cover in today's video. If you find this video useful, then please leave a like and subscribe. And if you have any video requests for future videos, then absolutely just leave them in my comments or send me a message. So the first thing that I want to say, and this is the biggest tip of all, you can click off after this video, please don't, but in principle you could, because this is all you really need, and that is to practice, okay? My biggest tip for learning hanzi is literally just practice. The more you teach your brain to recognize these characters and to not automatically kind of go to the pinyin, then the less you'll rely on them. It's as simple as that, and that is truly just a matter of practice. There's several ways that you can do this. For example, me personally, I only handwrite my Chinese notes. I'm an international relations major at university, and I type up all of my IR notes. However, for Chinese, I always make sure to handwrite them. And to be honest, I do contribute this handwriting to be one of the main reasons why I can read so well. The more comfortable you are in writing these characters yourself, the more likely you are to be able to read them comfortably as well. Now, leading on from that, I kind of want to talk about the basics of hanzi. So by that I mean, radicals, stroke order, etc. Of course, it's very important to understand the basics of them, like what a radical is, why stroke order might be helpful. However, in my personal opinion, other people, might say different things, but in my personal opinion, I do not think you should focus too much on this. It just has not been too helpful for me. If you're really stuck with a word and you happen to know the radical, then you might be able to guess it. However, this is a lot harder than it seems, and for me personally, I have not had much success with this in the past, so I just don't really see the point of learning radicals. And as for the stroke order, I don't have a stroke order. I think this is very much a personal thing, because some people learn the stroke order and that helps them to remember how to write the character. Okay, if that's the case for you, then amazing, keep doing that, absolutely. However, for me personally, it didn't really help. I did actually ask one of my Chinese teachers, what is the deal with stroke order? Do you have to learn it, or, can you get away without it? And she told me that basically, so she's native Chinese, she said in China, they are taught stroke order as well, but stroke order is just kind of one of those things that they only do when the teacher is watching. So knowing that native Chinese people also don't really care about stroke order, it really comforted me, because girl, neither do I. So yeah, understand the components of a character, like what makes up a character, but just, you don't have to focus too much on it. I'm obviously making this video from an English-speaking perspective. The other languages I know, Spanish and Russian, they're also more similar to English than they are Chinese. And what I mean by that specifically is that the languages that I know, the words are made up of letters from an alphabet. I personally do not study Korean, but I know that in Korean as well, each character, so to say, is actually made up of letters as well. But this is not the case in Chinese, and that is so trippy as someone that only knows languages with, kind of the alphabet system. Each stroke in each Chinese character does not represent a letter. For me personally, when I started learning Chinese, I just saw the characters as pictures, and you know what, in the earliest Chinese script, written Chinese was based on pictures. That is kind of what the language came from. If you approach learning hanzi with the idea that each picture/character has a sound associated with it, personally thinking about it that way has helped me to get myself out of the English kind of alphabet mindset. To summarize this section, what I'm trying to say is that do not get bogged down in the technicalities of hanzi, you know, the radicals, the stroke order, unless it helps you. For me, it does not help me. So the way I approach learning hanzi is to think of it as memorizing pictures. So next, I'm going to talk about how I then actually memorize the hanzi. So if you watched one of my recent videos where I talk about how I learn HSK vocab, I actually outline my HSK vocab learning process. Basically, what I do is I find a PDF list of the HSK vocab just, online, and then I make a digital flashcard set on Quizlet. I actually tried out Anki for a bit, but I ended up moving back to Quizlet, and the reason for that, guys, is that Quizlet has a text-to-speech option. Oh my god, it is so useful. Whenever it comes up with the hanzi, it pronounces it for me. It is so useful to associate the pronunciation with the characters without the pinyin kind of distracting you, so to say.
身体 body health 宾馆 hotel 已经 already 起床 to get up.
The next step for me is to then rewrite this vocab list into my notebook, and that's because it's scientifically proven that if you handwrite things, you're more likely to remember them than typing that up. My third step is to just, actually practice the flashcards. I'll do maybe 1 or 2 sets a day. It's really important to utilize spaced repetition where you'll do a set of flashcards and then, leave it maybe an hour or 2 and then come back and do it again. You'll find that any words you forgot the first time come back to you so much quicker the second time, so I do really recommend doing that. My fourth step is arguably the most important / useful, and that is to do graded readers. This is not sponsored, but I absolutely love using an app called Do Chinese. So basically what I do is I'll go and get a chapter, I'll turn the pinyin off, I'll take screenshots, import it into GoodNotes, and then I'll go and translate all of the sentences. This is so useful because the majority of the words I already know, however, it sprinkles in a few new ones, and I just think that's so effective. The repeated use of lower level vocab just helps to reinforce that vocab into my head without the use of pinyin. And that kind of goes on to my next tip, I guess, and that is to use contextual learning. So reading graded readers, as I've just said, is a fantastic way to learn hanzi. Another aspect of contextual learning is writing practice, and this is so useful. Again, it links back to what I was saying before, where I handwrite all of my Chinese notes. You can see right now in this very video, I'm literally just handwriting. Well, it's actually a graded reader, and this was mostly for handwriting practice, but even then, I'm doing this for the main purpose of improving my handwriting. However, writing down these characters also reinforces them back into my brain. I'm not even trying to memorize them all, but just writing them down really helps my brain to remember them. Writing short sentences, or paragraphs, is a great way to do this. You can start by just copying sentences from your textbook or, from whatever course material you use, and then you can eventually go on to, writing these sentences from your own head, like making up these sentences yourself, which again, not only helps with hanzi recognition, but it also helps you to develop your Chinese vocabulary. So leading on from this, my next tip is actually to utilize the Chinese keyboard on your phone. I have the Chinese keyboard on my phone, on my iPad, and on my computer. If you've never used the Chinese keyboard, basically there's different ones you can get, but I'll show you guys the one that I use. And I think texting, / just writing out text in Chinese on your phone is so underrated because you have to know the pinyin. You cannot write out the character unless you know the way it is pronounced. However, obviously when it appears, you do not see the pinyin. Something else that also really helps me is I like to write out captions on my Instagram posts in Chinese. Again, not only does this make me practice just my vocabulary, it also helps me to think in Chinese, and it also helps me to type out the words. And then my next point, leading on from Studygram, is to join Studygram. Having an account dedicated to learning, your language, where you can interact with people also learning the language, it's just so beneficial. You get to increase your exposure to Chinese in a much more fun and relaxed way, i.e. on Instagram. A lot of the people that I follow are actually more advanced than me, like, you know, they're HSK 3, 4, 5, you know, whatever. They're posting for their own pleasure, but when I'm looking at that post, I'm actually learning and improving my comprehension of Chinese and hanzi. Okay, my next tip is to gradually reduce pinyin. So I've been talking a lot about, you know, not using pinyin. I mean, just that sentence alone is really hypocritical because let me make it clear, I do use pinyin. However, when possible, I do not use it. If it's vocabulary I feel like I already know, I do not use it because the more I use pinyin, the more I rely on it. Like my eyes will automatically go to the pinyin. Obviously, if it's new words, then I absolutely do include it. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how to pronounce them, and that is super important as well. I mean, the last thing that I want to talk about is literally just to be consistent. Make sure you have some sort of exposure to Chinese every single day. Okay, and I do not mean study every single day for hours on end because I'm lazy, guys. I don't do that. I really truthfully do not do that every single day. However, if you have a studygram, you know, just go on Instagram and look for your friends' posts for like, you know, 10-15 minutes or, you know, 2 hours, but or watch a C-drama, do a round of flashcards, do a graded reader. Literally just expose yourself to Chinese language in some way. You just need to keep exposing yourself to the language until it becomes embedded in your brain. Lastly, guys, just be patient, okay? Learning hanzi is a very gradual process, especially without relying on pinyin, so just be patient with yourself and celebrate small victories along the way. So me, for example, 8 months in, I still celebrate when I can write a whole sentence in Chinese without pinyin and I know exactly what it says. I love that, I celebrate that, because me a couple of months ago would not be able to do that. I believe in you, and if you put the work in, you will definitely reach a point where you understand the characters very naturally, I promise. But yeah, if you guys found this video useful, then please do leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!